Later on, we're also going to be interested in income inequality, so not only in the level of the income, but also in the distribution of income. And one of the variables that we can use for this in the Eurostat database are the income quantiles. Yeah, so that's splitting up the income distribution in 5 bins, each of 20%. Yes, you can go to the Eurostat website and see, what this variable is, what it looks like, what the selection here that we're choosing later on, what they mean. I'm not going to repeat that. You've seen it before in the other videos, so you can figure it out yourself. These QU1 all the way up to QU5, these are the quantiles, so that's the things we're going to be using later on. So it's quantile 1, quantile 2, all the way up to quantile 5. And then we can drop a number of variables once we have done this. And one of the variables that we drop is actually the year 2010. Yeah, because that's outside the scope of our of the other variables, the time series of the other variables. So we only look at 2015, so we actually drop the column 2010. Yeah, so now the thing that we need to do is to get these quantile incomes, so QU1 all the way up to QU5. We don't want these in rows, we want these in columns. Yeah, so we're going to take a couple of steps to actually manage to do this. And these steps by now should become familiar from the previous videos. So we're going to be working with DFN, so that's also how I introduced it here. So dataframe new. So this overrides the previous dataframe on income, but that's not a problem now because we've already merged the income data with our dataframe DF. Yeah, so we can now call this DFN again. So we overwrite the GDP data, but we don't lose anything because we have saved the GDP data already. So first we're going to use the melt function, so pd melt on DFN. So the ID vars, so the variables or the columns that we need to identify uniquely a row, in this case is geo and quant income. The value of vars, so the columns, the 2015 that we want to turn into a row, is just this column 2015. Note incidentally that this is a number, so this is not a string. So if you would do here, if you would do it between quotes to turn this into a string, you will get an error because the column name is actually a number. So it's 2015 as a number, not as a string. So the var name, if we turn 2015 into a row value, then of course the name of that is going to be year. And finally, value name is going to be y underscore. So that means that these values QU1, so quantile 1, quantile 2, etc. will be preceded by y underscore. Yeah, so now we can look at DFN head just to check whether we get what we were expecting. Yeah, so now indeed the column 2015 has turned into a row with column name year as we wanted to, and here the value name is now y underscore, which looks a bit funny, but that's going to be y underscore quantile 1, y underscore quantile 2, etc. Yeah, so y here stands for income. Yeah, so now we're going to move to the next step. We're going to use the unstack to make sure that these row values turn into columns. So we're going to say dfn.set index, and we set the index to geo, year, and then the last one is quant in. Yeah, so when we use the unstack, the default way pandas does this is to take away the last column. And then turn the row values of that column into the new columns. So we want this in place is true. So then we say dfn is dfn dot unstack. Yeah, in the same way as we used it before. We're going to reset the index. Reset index. Again, in place is true. Yeah, because we don't no longer need actually the index. Then we're going to rename the columns. dfn dot columns is going to be equal to period join col dot strip for col in dfn dot column dot names. Sorry, not names, it's column dot values. Then we are going to introduce our new column country. Yeah, we want the country name, not the abbreviation, so that's going to be dfn geo dot replace, and then we give the dictionary Eurostat dictionary. Once we've done this, we can actually drop the column geo. We no longer need it, so that's going to be in place is true, and it's a column, so axis equals 1. And again, just to check, always look at the head of your data frame. And we have an error, so what goes wrong here? Data frame has no object called column. Ah, okay, I see. Yeah, this should be columns. And now when we run this, we're again going to get an error. And now the error is that it can't find certain things because we actually unstacked that. So it's a bit annoying, but it means that we have to rerun, so build the data frame again from scratch. And now we only run this. We actually get the data frame that we were expecting. Yeah, so the problem is that because we're removing certain columns or we're renaming them, when we run this code block again, it can no longer, for instance, find geo, or it has problems identifying quantinc because these things were removed. The geo is removed here with the drop, and the quantinc is removed because we unstack it into different columns. Yeah, so that's why you have to, if this happened to you as well in your notebook, you have a typo or something, start again from loading the data directly from the Eurostat website and go through these steps, and that will resolve the error. So now we have the data frame that indeed we want. So we have year, which is the same year everywhere because we only have 1 year, so it's 2015. We have country, and then we have the columns, so income, Y, quantile 1, quantile 2, all the way up to quantile 5. Yeah, so that's the way we wanted to have our data. So basically what we can do now is merge this data with the data frame that we already have, which contains mortality and GDP. So we're going to say df is pandas. No, we actually use the method on df itself. So we're going to say df is df merge. So that's the one on the left, the data frame on the left. dfn is going to be the data frame on the right. The how method is going to be left, so we keep all the rows that we have in df, but not necessarily all the rows that we have in dfn. The merger is going to happen left on, basically only on country, because we don't have anything else what varies. We don't have differences by gender either. And then we have right on, again, country. And just to make sure, we look at the first couple of rows of the data frame to see whether everything worked. Yeah, so now in our new data frame we have country, we have year, and now it has this suffix of x added to it because we have two year variables. So we have a year x and a year y. We'll repair that later on. We have preventable mortality and treatable mortality from above, GDP from above, and now we introduced these new quantiles, income quantiles, into the data set as well.